All right, everybody, it's our Klaus here, and all right, let's fucking do this. All right, I am feeling a bit cagey here. I think a good portion of us are, and in that caginess, I am choosing to channel it into understanding what is all just going on surrounding what is really coming across to me as a very dangerous false flag that's unfolding just by the moment here as the death count continues to rise and more people are turning up infected. It really is quite a fucked up scene going on out there. But so what I want to do though is provide you as always with the evidence. Why I think I have the grounds to say that it is a false flag. And thinking about something like a virus being used to wipe out a population, let's not hear anything of that being far-fetched, because I do believe any proper history course would teach us that when America was being commandeered, those blankets given to the natives most certainly took them to their deathbeds. And that was not by mistake. So let's take a look at some things here. So going back in time a bit, last year I obviously put a huge amount of emphasis on the World in 2019 cover put out from The Economist. Now we are going to be looking at that 2020 cover today, but in setting the baseline here, there's a lot of discussion about the film Get Out, and even before I had looked into that 2019 cover, right, well before it was released, I had honed in on that film due to a line saying that the next 9/11 was going to be on some geriatric shit. Now, let's build our case. So here we have the Life Care Center of Kirkland. Now this is essentially ground zero for coronavirus coming to the States, and again starting up here in Washington. Now a few things I want to point out here. A, the fact that this is an assisted living facility, a nursing home. We're clearly talking about a geriatric population, so looking at that as the catalyst for what's going on right now is absolutely stunning. Now, I'm also going to talk about, I'm bridging this gap here. They're using language connecting the coronavirus and 9/11, but I'll get to that in a moment. So look here, though, because the address for this particular facility, of course, has that nice 111 in it, because we would drop those zeros. And so again, as we've been discussing for some time, 111 amongst many things coded with vaccination, mark of beast, dollar crash, all of these just very imminent things around us. And of course I could go on, but notice here as well, of course, on 120th Street, in that zero drops the 12th tarot card, of course, the Hanged Man, this notion of sacrifice. Now, in bearing that in mind, look down here at this phone number and how bizarre this is. So we have the number 23 written out 3 times. And if we were to add these numbers 8, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, it actually totals to 23. So going back to my previous videos, we had talked extensively about chapter 23 from Crowley's Book of Lies. Again, that's book 333. Life Care Center, LCC, is 333. So again, so immensely interwoven. And it starts out with the line, "What man is at ease in his inn? Get out." And so if you don't see it. But of course, in the commentary here that is provided by Crowley, he goes on to say that the number 23 and the title, Skidoo, both mean get out. This chapter describes the great work under the figure of a man ridding himself of all his accidents. Now, this can be thought of on an elite scale in, right, cleansing the earth of the cancer that is, right, the general population in their eyes. This is not at all contrived language on my end. So, all of that, immensely stunning to me. And of course, I mean, so let's keep moving here. And this idea that they are connecting these two now, and I'm going to, we've got a lot. So you see them saying that the total number of deaths from the coronavirus has passed the number of people who died in the 9/11 attacks. Again, the false flag operation carried out, right, by the powers that be. Now, I could not for the fucking life of me figure out, why are we comparing these two things? If one is listed as a terror attack, why are we comparing the death toll for a virus, right, an organically occurring thing in this world? That to me made no sense. And so when I'm thinking about all of that, I decided to look at the amount of time in between September 11, 2001 and March 11th of 2020, when the World Health Organization labeled the coronavirus as a pandemic. And of course, it's exactly 222 months. That span of time can also be viewed as 18 years and 6 months, that number 186, which we did discuss in the video previous to this one, as that was the number of days it had been since I had made a video. And then when I came back, happened to be doing this video on SARS-CoV-2 virus, all of this lining up. But now what I want you to see when we look up here at the symbol of 222, you have this phrase, and this is something that I came up with, Red 20 Vision. Now, the reason that we have that is looking at the World End 2020 cover here, we notice that 20 and vision are both in red. And so I decided to look at those coded, and we're really going to come back to that cover later on. So keep that in mind, though, when you see that Wuhan coronavirus also shares that 222 coding. Now, it's on and on at this point. September 11 attack, Donald John Trump Sr., right? We have this reference to the date April 23rd, which we can get that 666 out of. But what I want to tie you in here, because we talked so much about the World Economic Forum last year, because David Blaine spoke there, and again, they discussed Disease X. But I want to hone us in on natural-born killers. Now, I discussed this in relation to Oliver Stone's film, and again, I have a whole video on it, which I absolutely encourage you to check out. But what I want you to see is, and it's right here, I'm slightly ahead of myself. It's okay. Is the connection of that phrase to viruses, and in a recent tone. So you have here from the European Biotech, right, Life Science and Industry magazine, an article talking about oncolytic viruses as natural-born killers. This is a cover story. And it talks about the connection to the company Amoun, and uses this language referencing Ground Zero. Now, breaking this apart oncolytic virus is something that preferentially infects and kills cancer cells. As the infected cancer cells are destroyed by oncolysis, they release new infectious virus particles or virions to help destroy the remaining tumor. Now again, in that elite language of ridding the cancer of the earth, this is very interesting to me. You're incorporating a virus that takes out another virus. And so again, depending on your lens, that lines up very stunningly. Now, that process, oncolysis, does happen to have the same values as Don J. Trump as well as Trump Pence. Now you'll also see here Atu 13, which is the death card. We'll be talking a lot about that. That is transformation, that is progress. And again here, a paradigm shift. Now, what I thought was really odd about this company, and this took me a little bit to trace out here, but you could see if you go to their website under news releases, this makes it look as if just this year, February 25th, Amgen, the world's largest biotech company, announces, right, all of these things having to do with a Helix campus located in Seattle's Interbay neighborhood. Now, of course, Seattle heavily on the radar right now because it is the test site for the vaccine that has been just fucking thrown together from we'll get to it. But again, safety to the wind, and has been launched in Seattle. But upon some further research here, you could see that that was actually an article from 2004, and that 10 years later, they actually closed that facility in Seattle. So again, Amgen still remains a giant, but just not with that location. Now, let's go back here and trace some more bits out. So finishing out with this number of 186, again, as you can see connected here, I want you to see not only the connection, of course, to that virus, but destroying America, the pale horse rider, the phrase, this is really it, and 9/11 style. Now, why 9/11 style bothers me, where on earth, here we go, is because these articles just started coming out saying that they wanted a 9/11 style commission to review the handling of the coronavirus. And so again, this is setting the tone for a very conspiratorial narrative. And again, evoking 9/11 so much, really playing on people's emotions. The idea there is putting people at a wit's end so that when something is offered as a cure, there is going to be very little resistance to just fucking Black Friday for it. Excuse me. But again, you can see all of these different outlets using this phrase, 9/11 style, 9/11 style, all the way through. And again, how this just continues to mirror that second 9/11 bit. But so, I do want to shout out here to Fear Division Distraction, because they had a great insight here saying that my November 3rd, 11/3 was right on the money, because it was actually just mirrored for 3/11, again, the day that the World Health Organization labels the coronavirus as a pandemic. So I did think that was a really strong insight there. And then I found it really fascinating as well, because when I was looking at the time between March 11th this year and November 3rd this year, I saw that it was 237 days. Now, remember in Get Out, when we were talking about that phrase, the second 9/11 is going to be on some geriatric shit, you can see here that they're at gate 311, right, as I discussed in that video, and flight 237 is what is called out during that conversation. So what really doubles down on that is the idea that this span of time on the left here can also be seen as 23 days and 7 months. So there are 2 of them there. Now that is really stunning to me. So you can see the code information there for flight 237. But I also want you to be able to see the more recent coding for that simple value of 237. Now, amongst that is the equinox of the gods, harmonic 33, which we'll come back to, but notice as well the number written out here, 195. Now, I'm going to get back to this at the end here, but again, 20 vision, what I'm looking at written in red here from the World End Economist cover this year has that simple value of 195. All right, so we're gonna get into all of that, but we got a ways to go. So let's keep moving here. Now, noticing again that the first confirmed case of this was November 17th of last year. Again, that date reduces down to the 777, and again, just since that 195 came up, the 777 written out does appear in that, all right? And you can also see bubonic plague, Black Death, all of the things connecting it to this virus, all right? So now, keep moving here, though. You can see that November 17th was the 321st day of last year, 44 remaining, all very big. And I want to keep going here, though, make sure that we've got everything in line. And so thinking about, because that comment did come up on the previous video, I do want to point out to you that Moderna has since changed the wiki page, or somebody came along and changed it after that video. So in this here is that video, and I just want you to see what I showed you and how that's missing from what they have available for people to view now. So check this out. But so again, you can look into Moderna, you can see their connections with DARPA in the past. You can see again that these are heavy hitters connected with very questionable organization. Of course, I encourage you to go check out that video, but now when we come back here to today, none of that is there. All right. And this has happened countless times in the past where whether it's something like Moderna that's on the radar or something much more obscure, a website, a wiki page, whatever, it's fucking changed very shortly after it appears in my videos. That, right, who sees? And it's like I've always said, it's not how many people, it's what people are watching that really makes the fucking difference here. Now, as I discussed in that post, and again thinking about this 237, and because we're about to start talking about Walt Whitman, who was mentioned by Jay Inslee in his stay-home order for Washington, but the phrase "get out" and "leaves of grass" combined do have that simple value of 237 as well. And so really the coding here is not to be fucked with. I mean, this is insane. Now, what I want to talk to you about here is how that stay-home order from Inslee was put out on March 23rd. Now, I just so happened to bring up March 23rd in my last video from 2019, and I was connecting it to the year 2020. Again, talking about Chelsea Wolfe in that video is just as relevant. It really is. Again, you can see these numbers connecting still to this information that I'm presenting to you today. And something absolutely worth considering in here, this is a very rare thing. Well, I would put in a blurb of my name and another word alongside it. So here we have our Amoun prophecy. And amongst the troubling things in there, we have the number 1,500. Now, that does happen to be the English value for stay home, stay healthy. Of course, that is what is alongside Inslee's order. That is the hashtag. It is also the same as the Mark of Beast prophecy. Again, that long-standing concern of mine that a vaccine will be used to very nefarious ends. Now, it's very interesting to me that I feel the wool is trying to be pulled over eyes in very peculiar ways. So here you have from the actual governor website, the transcript, and here again, the references to stay home, stay healthy, what I just showed you, and they have it listed as March 24th. That Inslee went out and did this. Now, this is inaccurate. It was actually the 23rd. All right? And I've got fucking messages and shit with people talking that day about it as it was going on. So here we have the YouTube clip of it, which you can see here, uploaded on March 23rd from a news station. And so in this clip, Inslee references Walt Whitman twice. And he references the poem Song of Myself. Now, before I get into that, give me just one moment here to catch my breath, and we'll really unpack this. All right, so one moment. All right. So jumping back in here, you can see that I have written out the date of the first corona case, and then when Inslee puts out his stay home order. So that is a difference of 128 days. And we can see here that simple value again giving us bubonic plague, the phrase get out US, right? Or Get Out Us, the two Jordan Peele movies, all the things I've talked about with him. And again here we can see the world in that Economist cover bit. And we also have the numbers written out 1, 5, and 6. And I will be damned, but the simple value for Song of Myself, again, the poem that Inslee cites twice, is 156. And that is the number of Our Lady Babylon. You can also see here it is the same value as Wuhan virus and Seattle with the Roman numerals for 2020. We also, of course, have the 666 written out, 33 written out, and pulling us back here with the Walt Whitman ideas again. Both passages that Inslee cites come from section 33 of that poem. There's 52 sections. And so if we go over here, I believe I have it pulled up here. We can see here the reference to that phrase, the courage of present times. What's the other one? Be of good cheer. They are right next to each other. And so when we scroll up here, just so you can see what section we are in, these are long sections, you can very clearly see here that it is section 33. Now again, thinking back to that World In Economist cover from last year, that was the 33rd edition of that. Walt Whitman did draft Leaves of Grass over 33 years, and the final version was titled the Deathbed Edition, and it was in that final edition you can see that Song of Myself was given its official title. And of course, the idea of a deathbed in something like a fucking virus is hand in hand. So you can see on the right side of your screen here the coding for Deathbed Edition. And again, written out there, false flag attack. You can also see the numbers 4 and 7 written out. And again, on the left side of your screen over here, that span of time we were just looking at between the first case and Inslee's stay home order, 4 months, 7 days. And of course, that number 47 or 74 are both just incredibly just important in all of this. All right, so tons of coding on the right side. If you're not familiar with my Walt Whitman video, absolutely worth looking into. So there's some more of that, again, just to familiarize you now. Let's go back here. Left side of your screen, right? Looking at Song of Myself, all of that coding there, how it connects is it's really stunning. All right, so keep moving. Of course, I like to break things down that step further. So Song of Myself, who is myself? And you can see here written out, right, the Illuminati, this language of unprecedented as well as false flag operation, and I am Saturn. Now, all of this very interesting because, of course, that reference over here to the 8th pillar, all of this connects to the old Centennial article talking about the return to the Saturnian age. Now, I did talk about this very extensively in the Trump shutdown video, and again, you can see the image from it here that I use, but this is very critical. All right, especially when we consider, again, look back to the right side of your screen, Saturnian age has that simple value of 130. Again, that is the same as Washington, the ground zero site for the coronavirus in the United States. And I also want you to consider that the 2020 Economist cover here, there's actually 130 letters on the cover here, not including the 2020. It's 130. So notice how it all stacks, right? Drop that 0, it's the death card again. So let's keep moving though. Back to the left side of your screen, you can see that coding again for myself, finishing it out there. But take a look as well here, again, because Inslee's order telling us all to stay home. Both of those words, 4 letters, that's a nice 44. And then, of course, S and H gives us 198. I'll be damned if 198 is not the same coding as some geriatric shit, as well as the second 9/11, President Trump, right? Terrorist attack. Like I was saying, how they're crossing it over. Why are they comparing the deaths from the coronavirus to the 9/11 attacks? That sets a tone. That's a narrative. Fucked up. Okay, 198, an incredibly important number outside of that. Scroll down here. Of course, Jordan Peele, his full name, does give that same coding as well. These ideas of the birth age of Aquarius, the calm before the storm. Of course, the storm also referenced in the Whitman poem discussed by Inslee in that address. God damn it, look at this. It's all there. All fucking there, you guys. Excuse me. Keep going. All right, again, that coding for stay home, stay healthy written out for you. But let's get over to this World End cover for this year. All right, and again, we did see that phrase, the World End, come up when we were looking at that 128. All the things. So worth noting, there are 10 letters that we see before 2020. Again, 10 in tarot is the wheel card, and right, that is things changing, major changes. Most certainly what we are seeing. Now, after 2020, we see 120 letters. And as I stated at the very beginning of this video, how peculiar that ground zero for this fucking virus was on 120th Street in Kirkland, Washington. Okay. And again, dropping that zero, the hangman, self-sacrifice, right? How that connects to chapter 23 here, right? These ideas of sacrifice. Absolutely incredible. So anyways, coming back. 120 after that, and I want to focus in, of course, on that 130. So let's pull that back up for you so that you can see again how it comes up. All right, and I've talked about this all so much. I'm just going to pull it up so you can have it there, something to review. But what's also really worth noting with that 130 is that on January 30th of this year, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak to be a public health emergency of international concern. Again, that's that 130, just like the number of letters on that, just like all this shit over here. Now, what also stuck out to me on this cover is that the letters are black, red, and green. Now, the total of those three colors written out is 13 letters. So there you have it again. And if we look into the value of red, black, and green written out together, we have 105, same as 9/11, as well as sudden death. Again, the reference to symbols. And Jordan Peele just coming up, coming up, coming up. Now, looking at this a step further, the words vision and the number 20 being in red, right? Discussed, as you can see it very clearly here. And I noted in the very beginning of this video with that 222 red 20 vision and how that's connected. But now, in breaking it down further, when we consider the number 20 in red, and 20 in the tarot deck is the Aeon card, or the Judgment card, right? The just complete fucking revamp before things start again. And we look at 20 vision. I think it's really interesting that we have coding for NWO Phoenix War. Again, thinking back to that 88 Economist cover with the Phoenix. And this phrase in March 22nd is NY. Now, we were talking about March 22nd in the last video because coronavirus, CV, 322, all the things. And I thought it was really interesting. I found this by March 22nd. 100% of the New York workforce must stay home except for essential businesses. So found that to be a really interesting connection in all of that there. Now, something I want to backtrack just a little bit on here, and of course, right, that's in response to this Wuhan virus as a way of looking at this. Now, when we pull up Wuhan virus, you can see the US is making a push to include, quote, Wuhan virus language at the G7 conference. Now, that's a very specific phrase choice, right? And of course, at the G7 meeting, G is the seventh letter, so 7-7, again, on the right side of your screen here, in that coding for 130, 7-7 is written out. All right, do you see? Now, when we're looking at this number of 195 for 20 vision, defending our nation is part of the motto for the NSA. And again, the connection to that 114, you can see all of this on the right side of your screen, of course. All of this further breakdown I've done in the past on connecting my research to the idea of a plague being used to fuck us up. And you can see here with that 195, it also gives us Lord of the Gate of Death. And of course, that is our death card, the black skeleton, right? All of these things that we've talked about. Written out here, Washington State. Contaminated vaccines. Insane. So, with all of that, you know, I believe that's what I had to show you today. It's pretty surreal, and, you know, I'm sure there's something I left out. The scope on this video is pretty interesting, pretty insane. And again, the overriding theme here, right, is just to create this case that for what is going on right now, this is orchestrated. It's not to say that it's not actually happened. It's not to say that people aren't actually dying at a concerning rate in response to being infected by this virus. It's not saying any of that's not happening. It's saying that it very well seems that it could be happening as a result of the powers that be deciding that it is time to cull back the herd. I'm going to pull this up for you from my last video just on the end here so that you can again see how bizarre it is. And again, this thread of microbiologists dying in very suspicious manners. And very interesting, this list that you could read through here, and how these people, if alive today, could very well have assisted us, right? Again, this article coming out in the early 2000s, and this doctor dying at the age of 57, who was an expert, world-renowned, in studying immune system responses to viral attacks by, quote, classic doomsday plagues. And again, it all just keeps lining up. All right, so all I'm saying is that if this was not orchestrated, I should not be able to design such a coherent video around information I was presenting over a year ago and what's going on today. So all there really is to wish you all well, to stay safe, to be mindful, to not feed into pandemonium, to not jump at that vaccine. Again, that vaccine bothers me so much for so many reasons. When we look at, again, this unprecedented language, they're throwing safety to the side. Even in creating the vaccine, they're not even using the actual virus for it. They're synthesizing a stretch of RNA to mimic it. And so that's something inorganic. All right, that is a worrisome component, and that is coming from a company that is hiding from you now who the fuck they were in bed with. All right, so just be well. Please be well.